What's ahead?
Well, joining us this morning, I'm delighted, two new guests this morning. Sam Dowler, journalist and author, and John Elliott, MBE, chairman of eBack Limited. Good morning to the two of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Are you both well?
Very well.
Good.
Sad I don't have an MBE now, actually.
Well,
Really?
absolutely. You need to up
There's time.
There is time.
You need to up your game, Sam.
I do.
John, can you
I
move
got
your
mine
mic?
by mistake.
Just let's move your microphone nearer you. You didn't get yours. What did you get your MBE for?
Service to small business. Making big business is small. That's a joke. Very
Yes,
bad
no, I
joke.
gather.
Very, very bad joke.
I was just thinking
gave
that
it the
the
contempt
Tories
it
are doing that
deserved.
really well.
Yeah, very good. OK, let's move on and talk about what is going on. It's a very febrile situation politically currently. Rishi Sunak has attacked Sir Keir Starmer for arrogantly taking voters for granted and assuming he can just stroll into number 10. The Prime Minister very much on the back foot here. I mean, look at the poll ratings. I mean, they're absolutely diabolical. He claims the Labour leader had no plan how to run the country at the Tories' local election campaign launch. So the local elections are going to be in May. He said, and I think he's got a point, voters should look to councils like Birmingham to see what a Labour would do if they win power. Now, Keir Starmer claims the Prime Minister is scared of calling an immediate general election because of his record in office. Is this Rishi Sunak on the front foot? He's going into the local elections. Look, I've got a plan. The plan is working.
Rishi Sunak doesn't have a front foot or a back foot right at the moment. He's just kind of coasting down the road because he doesn't have anything to show for his 14 years, for the Tories' 14 years in government, except the current nightmare we're in. And I mean, obviously, he's going to say that Keir Starmer is being arrogant, and Keir Starmer, I have to say, has been specific in never saying when we're in government. He has said if we get into government, every single time. He has never been arrogant about it. When obviously the polls are completely obvious it's going to be some sort of Tory decimation, and the Tories' biggest threat is reform, obviously. So it isn't Labour at all. So I don't know why he's. Well, I obviously do know why he's attacking Keir at this point, but arrogance certainly isn't something that's anything to do with
I don't
it.
know if you saw the interview with Keir Starmer. He's very much trying to be a little less robotic and trying to be more of a man of the people. He did a big interview for the Sun TV, which was the other day. Do you think he's arrogant?
No, I don't think he's arrogant. He's a politician. Isn't the problem we've got to find a better way of running the country? I know that's a big question. Haven't we got to first accept what is working now doesn't work?
Yeah.
That's the first thing to accept. Once we accept that, then we can find a better way. There must be a better way to run this country.
So if you liken this country to a small business or a big business, for example, Rishi Sunak says the plan is working. He's got 5 things he said we're going to achieve.
It's all PR, though, isn't it?
Is.
It's all optics and not substance. And actually, voters aren't as stupid as we think. They can see through these things, actually. There's the Westminster bubble and the media bubble. What will happen? Who knows? I don't know who's going to win the next election.
Well, we're starting to see inflation come down. So inflation now at 3.4%. Rishi Sunak said that was one of his targets. He's going to grow the economy. Well, the economy is not really growing. It may well start to grow. He's going to stop the boats. It's all very well, but I don't see anything tangible. And that's the problem, isn't it?
Absolutely right. Action speaks louder than words.
But not only that, John, if you set metrics in any business, and these are our business goals, you have to hit them.
You meet them or you change them. You follow the plan or you change the plan. You don't do both. So see, we've got to find a better way of running the country. You know, this country's doing very, very poorly, which is good news, really, because if we get some decent leadership, we can have a good country.
I agree with John, I have to say, because there has to be a better way of doing things, because this isn't working at all. And, you know, it has been 14 years with the Tories, so basically, even if it was just not Labour, anybody else, give someone else a chance, because what's happening at the moment doesn't work, and it is PR, like saying, for example, that, you know, it's there's a third less immigrants in hotels just because you've moved them to housing. So it's like it's all very well. I'm saying this is working, that isn't working. But
well, they spent more money. They've got RAF Scampton and Wethersfield and the Movie Stockholm.
Exactly, and you know, and putting off the election for as long as possible, so there might be some slightly better numbers in order to get maybe like a couple of extra seats here and there. That is, I mean, he's running out the clock, and it isn't the best idea at all.
But is the answer not, oh, well, let's just try Labour because this isn't working? Is the answer not, let's have an honest conversation with the public? This is what you want from us.
That's the general election, isn't it?
Well, no, because that's not what they're doing. This is what you want from us. This is how much money we have. What do you want to lose? What do you want to keep? How do you want the country to run?
John.
We've got to get some bad news out there. We've got to accept the fact is this country is bankrupt. Mm-hmm. You know, we've got to accept that. People will accept it.
Well, the percentage on national debt is absolutely off the scale.
Unbelievable.
It's like 98%.
Unbelievable.
GDP.
We collectively consume more than we produce, to a tune of £1,000 per person. So we've got to correct that. We need more supply, not more consumption. I would live with a recession. Let's get the balance right. We need more manufacturing. We need to make things that we consume.
And also this goes back to the issue of being far too reliant on China, on hostile powers, and it's so easy to import cheap goods, but actually we need to broaden our manufacturing
Face reality.
base.
We've got to face reality. We've got to match our consumption with our production. There's too many people don't need to work.
But it also comes back to the net zero argument, because the manufacturing jobs we've actually shipped abroad in order to lower our CO2 output.
OK, let's ask Sam that.
Optics again.
I have a feeling you may... Well, what does Keir Starmer stand for? Because I have absolutely no idea what his policies are. Do you?
Well, yeah, well, I do. Like, he wants us all to do better. Surely he wants to cut. He wants to cut.
That is not. No, that is not a policy.
Okay. First
that's like something out of W1A.
We have to say it's like people who work in care, for example, or work in the police. People often say, and Rishi Sunak has said this before, that they do it for the love of it, right? And that's why they do it for such terrible wages if you work in care, etc. So I think politicians should do it because they want to improve the country, not because they want to be stars, not because they want to have a plum TV role later. And I think Keir Starmer wants the country to run better.
What does Labour stand for?
They stand for the people.
But this is all words. This is words.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. They haven't let out a manifesto yet. So as soon as the manifesto is out, then I'll tell you what they stand for.
That's the interesting point, right? So, and that's what René was alluding to. So Labour is way ahead at 44%, but actually those polls will narrow. What would you like to see, John? Just in terms of, with your experience, what does the Labour Party have to offer? Going back to René's point, to be credible, to say we have a vision for Britain.
We've got to change the way we run the country. That's the big decision. What he wants is to run the country. That's what he wants to do.
What's the one thing he has to do?
Well, he's not able. He's not competent to do it.
No. So Sunak gets in, let's say. What is the one...
we've got to... we've got to balance the book. If Starmer gets in, we've got to balance the books. And they have said some of these things, actually. They have said they want to increase manufacturing. And that's just one thing. It isn't just manufacturing, services. We've got to balance the books. We've got to collectively produce as much as we consume. And we can do it.
We have to have difficult conversations with people.
Absolutely right. And that's why the problem with the two main parties are they're too diverse.
Yeah.
And if you've got to make difficult decisions, you've got to have simplicity.
Are we just doing too much now? Are we just trying to please everybody, doing
Absolutely
too much with a pot that stays the same?
Exactly right.
What do you mean by that? Do you mean about, for example, social care? Do you mean the welfare state, for example?
All of it. So the NHS, we're doing too much in the NHS. We need an honest conversation with people where we say, this is the NHS budget. These are the things we treat. What do you want to cut in order to do hips properly, cataracts properly? What don't you want us to do?
And I think it's also making sure you know what the vital services are and which are the bolt-ons. Sam, let's just come to you. There's a brilliant article here by Alison Pearson in The Telegraph, which talks about, and this is being mooted about whether they change leaders. So they are facing electoral oblivion right now. And she goes on to say that actually they've got a death rattle net approval rating of -48, which is lower than Boris Johnson or Jeremy Corbyn when they resign. What would you do? Let's say you're in PR, right? What would you do? What would you advise the Conservative Party? Do they stick or do they twist?
Well, look, I've been in PR in the past.
I know you have.
And so it's... Changing leader is not the answer. I mean, like they're already a laughing stock. I mean, changing to Penny Mordaunt now would be 4 prime ministers in 4 years, and and the world already sees our government as pretty much ridiculous, and our country sees our government as ridiculous. So another
Does
PM
one really matter?
No, it would make it worse. It would make it worse as in like we know that we're gonna. Let's say, for example, they were going to have a general election in May. That would mean that there would be a new prime minister for a month. But obviously, so they're going to do it. Let's say November. So we're going to have a new prime minister for 6 months. Penny Mordaunt won't even be able to get her feet under the table by then.
Good. I don't want her under the table.
Well, you may not. There are other people in there, Kemi Badenoch, for example. And John, also, what's your view, particularly, and it is interesting, and I will say this, won't I? When you look at the latest YouGov polls, Labour, this is from yesterday or the day before, Labour on 44, Conservatives dropped to 19. Reform UK now at 15%, 4 points behind the Conservative Party. I have never seen an ascendancy like that. And that is also replicated in the Red Wall, that very important heartland, and they are turning, these are people who may have voted Conservative for the first time, they are turning to Reform UK, which the media don't like at all and are calling them far-right party. They're not a right-wing party, and I know that. They're not a far-right party. They're right of centre. What does that say? What's going on in those industrial heartlands?
I think the polls are fairly irrelevant. Why Reform are better is because they've all got the same objective. They've got a clear direction, which the other two big parties haven't got. There's too much diversity in those parties, and you can't make good decisions with compromise. We need tough decisions. To make difficult decisions, you need strength and a single person making that decision.
Yeah. And what do you make of the rise of Reform UK? Is this a sort of protest vote, or is this? Oh, you think it's protest?
I think it's a protest vote. I think that the Tory party has become, well, for people who support Reform, they say the Tory party is too left-wing, and the people. But
Reform is also taking Labour voters too.
Well, yes, that's true. But I mean, mainly it is. Let's say, for example, you add up the Tory percentage and the Reform percentage, or is it 19 plus 14?
Yeah,
it doesn't.
15.
It doesn't equal. It still doesn't equal Labour's 44%. So that is. So therefore, is the vote. The vote is split.
Do you not think that Reform voters are very similar to Brexit and Trump voters, where they're embarrassed because people have made them feel that way to say that they're going to vote, and when they get to the ballot box and the curtain is closed behind them.
Well, exactly. Well, I mean, Trump obviously is a different story altogether because, like, you know, he has his own set of numerous problems, whereas, you know, thankfully, Reform doesn't have a figurehead of that sort of calibre, especially who's under investigation for 91 indictments. But they have, you know, I think that actually that after the general election or just before, you will see a bunch of the people like Kemi Badenoch, for example, jumping to Reform. I do think people who think that the Tory party at the moment is not sustainable as it is, and you will not necessarily get a three-party system, but you know you will find a decimated Conservative Party, and you will find Reform as the right-wing alternative.
I'm really pleased you brought that up, and I think René's right. I think actually people are embarrassed to say how they'll vote, so that when you talk to the pollsters, you won't actually answer. But you're right, because Sir Geoffrey Cox, the former Attorney General to Theresa May and Boris Johnson, has warned the Conservative Party could fail to act as a credible opposition, i.e. they could be wiped out, so they would basically be reduced to just a handful of seats.
Yeah, and I think
that's
totally
not
possible.
Good for democracy.
I think that's totally possible, but then you know they've only got themselves to blame. The fact that we've got Liz Truss like still spouting out nonsense when she's actually, you know, she's made a fool of herself across the pond and over here, and she still thinks that her voice is relevant when she has been one of the destroyers of the Tory party.
Can I read you a tweet?
Yes.
This is from Linda Keane. Liz Truss is the only leader I'd want to see in charge of the Tory shambles party. It's Reform for me as a result. As for Penny Mordaunt, no, dreadful woman. She'd bring in Dr Bill Gates as her advisor for the next pandemic. People like Liz Truss, they thought that she had vision, single party vision. They thought she was another almost Thatcherite.
Do you know what? Actually, she was a Conservative.
Well, yeah, but she doesn't really have a place in the Conservative Party at the moment. They won't even hear her out in Parliament, so she may as well go to Reform.
But let's ask John. You're nodding along to that. Liz Truss, I actually think, set out a Conservative vision. I think she went too far. I don't think it was managed properly. What were your thoughts?
In the right direction. It isn't about reducing tax, it's reducing waste. It's managing things better and then reduce tax. We can't afford to reduce tax now. We've got a deficit to deal with. We've got to make some tough decisions. Trying to reduce tax to win the vote is the wrong thing. They keep trying to buy votes instead of earning them.
I couldn't agree with John more actually about reducing waste. We have so much waste as a human race in this country. We have to do more about our food waste, about energy waste, about heat waste, everything.
Efficiency in government, efficiency in the NHS is a shambles.
Yeah.
And I know I work in it.
Yeah.
But Lucy Waddle says to you, morning, for your information, my Reform vote is not, capital letters, a protest vote.
And let's just pause there because I have to go to a break. Thank you just for the moment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more after this break. This is Talk TV. Welcome back to Weekend Breakfast with me, David Bull. We're in the middle of head-to-head with Sam Dowler, journalist and author, John Elliott, MBE, chairman of EBAT Limited, and, what's her name? Oh, Renee Hunderkamp, the wife. Good morning, doctors. Lovely to see and hear from John. I love the advert for his company, a British manufacturer. I'm going to be voting Reform because they are properly conservative, unlike the party with that name. That's Nicola in sunny Norfolk. Thank you for that. This is for John Elliott, says Anthony. And 3 months ago, I bought a top-of-the-range of one of your humidifiers and love it. So I thought
dehumidifier.
Oh, dehumidifier. Well, he says humidifier.
Yes, he's got that.
I need one of them. You can do a special deal.
You can buy your own.
I'll give you a staff discount.
That's very kind of you. Lovely, doctors. Even if Labour win, nothing will change because civil servants are running the country. We need impartial civil servants. This is a really good point, actually, who turn up for work 5 days a week. Helen, John, what do you make of this idea that no one goes to the office anymore?
I think some jobs and some people can work from home, but it's a minority. It depends on what you're doing. Bus drivers can't work from home.
No, but also teamwork. Isn't it important people are in the office?
Yes, absolutely. You've got to spend some time in the office.
We've got
Teamwork's
civil
absolutely
servants
vital.
now being asked to be in the office 2 days a week, and they're going to go on strike.
Absolutely.
I imagine, Sam, you're all in favour of home working, so you can then knit whilst you're at home and do your gardening and make your own yoghurt.
I mean, I would love you to think that I did this myself. I did not. I can't knit, but I do think that a hybrid working system would be great. I mean, because I do think coming to the office is important for teamwork, for camaraderie, for and for the economy, like sandwich shops, etc., within the city and all stuff like that. So I do think that is important. However, I think if you can work from home, like for example, people who work in like a call centre or something where you're on the phone to somebody, if they can do that from home.
I don't agree.
And it helps because people. I've worked in a call centre and nobody talks to each other. Believe you me, so it wouldn't make any difference. I don't think that's true.
When I speak to my bank and they're working from home and it's someone who's a bit inexperienced, they can't turn to the person next to them and say, "Oh, do you know what I do?"
Well, they can. They just press a button and they speak to somebody on their earpiece.
But working in PR, and obviously I have done that as well. It's important that you're there. You share ideas. You spar off each other. You fire imagination. That's what's missing.
And you can't get that with a Zoom. You can't.
It's also a very middle-class privilege working from home.
Yeah. And just a couple more. John in Lincolnshire. John Elliott is so right about the financial state of this country. No party leader gives me any confidence that they will take the structure of the government and the civil service, particularly the Treasury, by the scruff of the neck and make it real, lasting changes. And one more. John Elliott should be a government advisor. So much sense and intelligence from someone who actually knows his stuff. One for Sam Dowler. David Sam Dowler talks, says absolutely nothing like Keir Starmer. And that's Nick Moore in Loughborough. Thank you very much indeed for all of those. Let me just ask you about the army. We've seen this, we're living in a very dangerous world, and we're starting to talk far more about how many people should be in the army. Tens of thousands of youngsters are withdrawing their applications to serve in the armed forces because they are waiting months to join. Fewer than 1 in 10 of the 137,000 people basically applied to join the Army, Navy and RAF. 1 in 10, less than 1 in 10, fewer than 1 in 10, ended up serving. 74,000 potential recruits giving up on the process altogether. And we have a massive recruitment crisis going on. When you look at the Army, 105,000 withdrew their applications because they waited more than 6 months. In the RAF, 31,000. In the Royal Navy, 27,000. There was something quite interesting that was said in here. In an age where young people don't want to work, they have to be wooed.
Shame. I think that's absolutely shameful. I think it's in the same way as the crisis at the border, for example, needs more agents, needs more staff. The military, obviously, the operation to get people into the military needs. I come from a military family. I think it's so important, and I think if you have people that want to do it after you've wooed them, and then
It's Diversity's doing that because they're busy shifting through, looking for people who are not white to interview first.
I would have to see the facts for that to be the case. I think they would want everybody at the moment to be.
Well, there's been stories recently to show that they aren't. They're actively trying to get.
It's certainly a factor.
It could be just incompetence.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yes, I think that's more like it.
That's why. See, good leadership. There's a great example of good leadership actually. Weatherspoons have just announced fantastic results.
Funnily enough, I was going to mention that.
Why? A good leader. One leader, male or female, makes the decisions. Napoleon said, give me one good general rather than 2 brilliant ones. because it gets things done.
And I'm really pleased you mentioned him. So Tim Martin, who runs Wetherspoons, who I know very well, Wetherspoons has reported an 8-fold jump in profit, saying its recovery from the COVID pandemic is continuing. Pre-tax profits leapt from 4.6 million to 36 million in the first 6 months of the financial year as more people visited the group's pubs. I'll tell you one other thing with Tim. He goes to every single pub. He
understands his customers. You make money when you give your customers what they want.
And isn't that the key, John, that the government don't understand people?
Absolutely right.
Oh, I have to agree. I love a Wetherspoons. I go to
I
go to a local Wetherspoons in Devon, where my mum lives, and also where I live. It's cheap. You know, you get decent, better than average food. I have to say, for the price you get, and your drink, and you get wine on tap. I mean, what more?
And that's democracy, you see.
Exactly, and they know
that's
their price
giving
down
people
there.
what they want. Sorry.
I know. I completely agree with John. I think it's fantastic, and well done to Wetherspoons.
Yeah, I agree totally. John, just finally, if I may, just ask you, I am deeply worried about the way our local communities are closing. We're not patronising our local shops. We're not going to the pub. It's people who are older going to pubs. The younger generation don't tend to go. How do we revitalise the high street?
Wetherspoons, well, you've got to give people what they want, not force them into what you think they want.
Parking.
Parking's a problem.
Parking.
It's all kind. Look, democracy is letting people do what they want to do and use their money. Supermarkets compete, and the user pays, and that's how you get democracy. If Tesco don't give us what we want, they don't survive.
Exactly right.
I think big companies don't really know what people want at the moment, especially young people. Young people are drinking less, they're going out less, but then certain sections of young people are going out more. I mean, like there's young people at the moment. There's no specific thing that they want, so everybody's just trying to vie for their attention, but nobody really understands it or gets it.
I think there's another thing actually.
Good luck with that.
And Tim has called for this, which is to reduce VAT in pubs, for example, because actually it's cheaper to drink at home.
Of course it is.
Than it is to go out.
Buy about 3 times as much.
Yeah, exactly. You're always out.
Well, I do, but like when I'm paying it nearly £8 for a pint, when you can buy, you know, if you spend £9, you can get 12 cans or something from Aldi and sit with your own pals in your own garden.
£25 a bottle of wine that you can buy for £6.
Well, exactly, and it's absurd. Why would you go out and waste that money?
I totally agree. Thank you very much to
Thank you,
both of you. To Sam Dowler, journalist and author, John Elliott, MBE, chairman of EBAT Limited. That was today's Head to Head.
Head to Head.